Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the conclusions for the past day of 926 for the 6th of September. Frontline changes report and the SITREP is already out. You can actually check them out over here. Frontline changes SITREP on the map. The map is in the description below in case you're looking for this. Try to see where my sources are, and also do check out the conclusions. Conclusions are not time sensitive per se, because sometimes I talk about analysis and macro situation, which is exactly what I'm going to do now. And so the past 24 hours, or actually more than that already, because it's half a day gone, a lot of major developments had happened, a lot of frontline changes, and we're going to go one by one. So let's go with KURSK front, the KURSK front. Kursk front, some major developments. For the first time, the Russian forces have pushed out of Karenevo. This city, small little town or small town, has been the prime objective, one of the prime objective of the Ukrainian forces, that they are trying really hard to attack and conquer this place, and they just can't get it done. And the Russian forces now, in fact, in reverse, have expanded outwards, fully securing Karenevo. So this is a massive setback for the Ukrainian forces, and the Ukrainian forces are still attacking Mavievka and Orgovka region, which means that they may not have even secured this area yet. And this is a massive disaster. Whoever is the commander at this flank should be sacked or sent to be cannon fodder, because Ukraine can't afford to sack soldiers. They will be happy, like, yes, sack me, I'm so happy, I don't need to fight anymore. So it's a bad idea, send them to be cannon fodders. So don't do that. No, let them be, free them, because I'm a humanitarian. So but this is the situation right now. It's very bad, and it feels like the Russians is going to be from this position, they can actually reinforce and attack the Ukrainian forces that is at Mavievka and Orgovka, and basically attack their rear positions. The Ukrainians currently have, of course, bases and positions in the forest, which is probably very sensible, pretty normal, nothing special about that. And I feel that the Russians would have to take over all these tree lines and forests. They have to leap from forest to forest to take over this position. There, at this moment, Crimea seems to be still under Russian control, and the Ukrainians have not attacked it for some time. It's been since the 2nd. So the Ukrainians are really struggling badly right now, and with Karenevo's siege being stopped, the siege have been lifted. This is massively a problematic situation for the Ukrainians. Not just this area, even in the south of this position, the situation is actually quite bad. There is geolocation of Ukrainian forces in the Snagos region, so they are still definitely in the region, but the Russians are just grinding them away. Just like these 3 geolocations are all FPV drone strikes. So every geolocation is some Ukrainian soldiers dying, and the Russians has been continuing to do this attrition war against the Ukrainians from all directions. Vishnevka, Snagos, Opanosovka. The latest, we do not have Krasnotobersk, which means that the Ukrainians probably have given up trying to take the position. They are reportedly returning to attack Komarovka. They really want this village for some reason, and I really don't feel this is a wise thing to do. I don't understand why they must take this village. Like, can't you just go from another direction? But somehow this commander here also should be sacked. Whoever is designing or commanding this overall offensive should be sacked as well. They are not getting anywhere, and this is horrible. Like I mentioned, right from the early beginnings of the Kursk offensive, I said, as long as the Ukrainians get drawn into a rigid line, they are going to suffer. This is going to be to their disadvantage. And we are now seeing right now, after 2 weeks, 3 weeks of pretty much stagnant front line, pretty much more or less stagnant front line, we are now starting to see the results. The Russians, in fact, pushed out of Karenevo. That is like, what kind of offensive go backwards? So this is horrible. And this and Ukraine currently seems to be focusing on this area here. It seems like they are trying to go for one last try for Lvov. So I zoom out too much. Lvov is over here, and they are trying to go for this one of these primary objectives, one of the major objective. So Karanevo is primary objective. They need to capture this, then they can go to Rylis, Rylis over here. But Lvov is one of these major objectives as well, then which they are still struggling to get to, and it looks like they are trying really hard right now. Ukrainians are geolocated south of Kitrovka over at Nedinov. Most likely means that the Ukrainians have the control around Kamyshevka, which explains why the fighting is over at Kamyshevka. However, this change of front line don't change anything. Strategically speaking, because we have already been reporting fighting at Kamyshevka, so this doesn't really change anything. Ukrainians geolocated south of Kitrovka, maybe they can actually go out into the countryside, but they were already in the countryside. They were previously already creating trouble. They are fighting at Kauchuk, trying to break through Alexiev. They were trying to break through at Anastasievka. They actually went all the way up and attacked Vavirovka and whatnot. So they already been here. And so this geolocation don't really mean much as well. That's the main thing. Even though it looks like, wow, Ukrainian is taking advantage, but this bull over here, you can see this, there's a bull. There's this a very angry bull over here. This bull is a Russian claim. And basically the Ukrainian mapping basically have not really changed much, generally speaking, even this little bit. But generally, from our perspective, the Russians most likely have already retaken all these grounds. So this geolocation, this expansion of front line don't mean much as well. And until now, we still have fighting being reported, or at least shelling reported at Malaya Luknia, Novaya Soroshina, and Krylenkoe. So we're not sure what is the situation. Are there Russian troops here or not? We're not too sure at this moment, but the pressure is still on the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians can't break out of this area here. They are stuck here. They are pretty much stuck here. And again, rigid front line. Bad. It's just a bad thing. And otherwise, there is literally no more offensive per se. The fighting at Boroki is like one-off. There's a weird thing that's happening around here. Otherwise, even the entire Sudzha region, where the Ukrainians previously was trying to blow out from this area here, failed. They can't get out. They are still stuck in more or less the same positions. At Martinovka, over at Ruskaya Konopelka, Chikaskaya Konopelka, and that's about it. They can't get out. And this is bad. Again, rigid front line. Bad. So horrible. So this is the Ukrainians cannot use their mobile warfare anymore, the maneuver warfare anymore, and this offensive is no longer much of an offensive per se. It's going to turn into a counter-offensive very soon, as we see over Karanevo. So this is one of this starting to become a disaster, and also on top of that, looking at the shelling reports, you can see that the shelling is getting further and further away from where the supposed attacks will come from. In the Tekhino region, the latest shelling report is far away from Tekhino. Previously, the shelling was all the way here. It's just off Tekhino. But now it's getting further and further away, which means that the Ukrainian forces are now unable, or they are afraid to get near to the front line now. The same thing is currently happening over in the Khrushchev region. The shelling is now over Yampil, Olivka, and Khrushchev. Previously, they were shelling over at Bakiv, over all these border towns and like along the highway and Isman, and it's all no more. The shelling is getting further and further away, which means that the Ukrainian offensive is getting further and further away. The window of opportunity has closed. This exciting pincer the Ukrainians could do on Glushkovo failed because of this freaking commander over in this area here in the Snagos region failed to do their duty, and of course in the bigger pincer on Rylis, this pincer from Kharkiv to Rylis and then from Karanevo to Rylis, this pincer also did not happen because yes, the commander at the Karanevo region have failed their jobs. So this entire adventure is, I think we are now on the verge of a reversal very, very soon. We and not the and one more thing I really want to emphasize. Another geolocation of allegedly M270 getting destroyed is one of those multiple launch rocket systems that the West uses. This is like HIMARS, but HIMARS times 2. So it's double the HIMARS payload with tracked. And well, I've already mentioned this many times. The M270s and HIMARS were previously unfindable. Almost impossible for the Russians to take them out. But over the KURSK offensive, all of them has been taken out very quickly. And we have been seeing so much losses. I didn't count, so I do not know how much I've lost, but way more than they should be. And the problem is that they are all being used very close to the front line, very close to the border. And I suspect the reason for this is that the Ukrainians are running low on artillery. This is my suspicion, because the artillery system has been one of the prime targets the Russians have. Lancet drones and FPV drones has always been hunting for, and it looks like after these 2.5 years of grinding away at the M777s, all these various French artillery, British artillery, or I don't know what hell artillery is there, it's starting to show. And I think that the offensive over this region here is starting to struggle with the lack of artillery support, which is why they are bringing up the HIMARS and M270, and they are using the shorter range rockets to try to support the operation. And I think this is the main reason why we are seeing the M270s and the HIMARS so close to the front line. And it's on top of the fact that they may not have the long range missiles anymore. They have used up all of them, usually on useless targets like Crimea, targets in Crimea, and like I said, is pointless. Then I have always said that strikes on Crimea is pointless because Crimea is not the front line. So whatever it is, they may not have any more long range missiles to use. Maybe the Joe Biden have not given them more. And now the artillery maybe is lacking in the KURSK offensive, so they're bringing in all the M270 and HIMARS to replace the artillery systems, because HIMARS and M270s are good at firing cluster munitions, so they can act as an effective artillery system, but the problem is that it generates a lot of smoke. So then it's very easy to spot. And the Russians have seemingly superior drone technology versus the Ukrainians right now. Despite the Ukrainians started the drone army first. The Ukrainians started the drone program first, but it looks like at this moment the Russians have advantage in drone warfare. And the Russians have been monitoring the battlefield much more closer than the Ukrainians could. And not to mention, electronic warfare might play a part where the Ukrainians may struggle to get their drones working in the Russian territory. And it looks like this M270 and HIMARS are just getting spotted way too easily by the Russians. And the Russians are really very careful. Like the video footage coming out for like the destruction of M270 and HIMARS, all I can only say is alleged, because the drones are flying way too high, way too far away to even have a clear image. The video footage are all quite blur. It's very far. They just claim they destroyed all these things, but often there are videos showing that these vehicles did fire some kind of missiles or rocket. So it is what it is. So anyway, the Ukrainians are also running out of HIMARS and M270s at this rate. Yeah, things are not looking good. F-16s have not even done anything much at all, and they already lost 2 F-16 pilots. And it's unclear if they lost 2 F-16s also. So that is another big problem regarding this Ukrainian situation right now. And this KURSK offensive, of course, is very expensive, which caused the Pokrovsk offensive to be really successful. And so another issue that I want to talk about is, of course, the collapsing front line over in the Zemelsky region. The Russian forces, as I mentioned in yesterday's report, in yesterday's conclusion about the importance of Khernik. And now we are starting to see the impact of this situation that is developing over towards Koenig, as the Russians are starting to push towards Koenig and towards Zeleny Pershey. This is like it's starting to, like I did mention, there is actually not much retreat routes for the Ukrainian forces here, and this is a huge area the Ukrainians have to defend. So which means there's a lot of troops in this area, and there's very few path to leave this place. So and I hypothesize that the Ukrainians may be starting to withdraw from this area because of the collapse of this front line, and we're starting to see the first impact or possible results with the collapse of the northern chopstick of Krasnohorivka. So the Russian forces with these two geolocations confirmed that the Russians have made huge advance north of Krasnohorivka, and this advancement clearly means that the Ukrainians are not defending this area. They have run away. And if they are running away from this area here, then I have my doubts whether they are even in this fortress, this entrenchment right here. And this also put into question the entire line. Are they all retreating right now? Are they all retreating right now? Because the Russians' development over this area here is pretty scary. They can close the gap pretty fast and over coming down from Helisinivka. So they may not even go for the Hernik yet, and this pincer could close. So the Ukrainians may be doing a mass withdrawal right now. Maybe. So I'm just saying the collapse of this entire area might be beginning pretty fast. So this is one thing. Otherwise, then we also have this major situation over in New York. The New York, as soon as this Ukrainian claim that they have secured the northern part of New York, geolocations immediately came out and invalidated what they say. So Russian forces has been geolocated in all these different locations, as mentioned in the situation report, and the entire eastern part of Nelipivka. Sorry, I actually have a hiccup or burp. And basically, it's the CIA, no doubts. And the Russians basically take the entire eastern part of Nelipivka, and this also includes the entire eastern northern part of the New York region, which also includes the geolocation of Russian forces just off the plant, the industrial plant. The Ukrainians did try to double down on this, saying that they drove out the Russian forces. They show a footage published by the Azov Brigade, but as I mentioned in the situation report, there is no objective, no parts in the video that shows Ukrainian control of the plant. In fact, they show a lot of bombardments of the position inside the plant. If they bombard the plant, means the Russians are there. So how do you corroborate the Ukrainian claims that this is a gray zone? It's not a gray zone. It was captured by the Russians then. So I'm just quite disappointed with the Ukrainian mapping, making shit up. Like, just admit it, but whatever it is what it is, and I still treasure them as a source. So I will continue to map their information, but that's why I cover from multiple sources, and I can tell you that most accurate picture from what I can understand. So it is what it is. This is just how it goes. Otherwise, I think the rest of the front line, nothing particular is very, very important, I think, except for Kupiansk. So at Kupiansk, Russian forces geolocated further south from Sinkivka, which means that the Russian forces continue to push south of Sinkivka. And current hypothesis is that the Russians actually have also went through the forest and captured more ground within the forest. This is my hypothesis right now. And if this is true, fighting is going to reach Kupiansk very, very soon. But of course, this is a very complicated terrain. Like you can see, there are buildings, roads here and there, a lot of forests. So it's going to take some time, even for the Russians to really grind through this area here. But whether the Ukrainians would want to grind along is another story altogether. So, and if the fighting reach Kupiansk, if the fighting reach around this area, the highway will be, this highway will be in danger. And if this highway is cut, the entire Ukrainian line here will be in deep trouble. Because this is where they reinforce. and resupply from the highway. So this is going to be in big trouble. And on top of that, the Russians are already moving up north, coming from Pischane towards Novosinilove. And the other crossing from across the Oskil River in this region is now also in danger, with the Russians pushing from Pischane towards Kolesnikivka as well as Krylyakivka. So this all together is looking really bad for the Ukrainians strategically right now. So the Ukrainians have to do something about this, but what can they do? I have no idea what can they do. So this is what it is. This is all I can say. So anyway, thank you for watching. This the conclusions. I don't want to go too far. I always have too much to talk about, which is why I have so many videos. Because I very talkative. Not I very talkative. No, because I just have a lot of things to share from my observations. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next update.